Hey guys, what's going on? It's Eli, and that's right. I am doing a top 5 list of my all-time favorite Star Wars films. Now, I have been meaning to do this top 5 list. I wanted to try and get this out around Star Wars Day, but, didn't have the time. But since it's still the month of May, still, you get the point. So that's right. I do have my all-time favorite Star Wars films, and it's much easy for this being a top 5 list. And yeah, I have reviewed these Star Wars films before, so I'm not going to talk about them that much, yeah, and of course, not to mention, there have been plenty of other top 10, top 5 lists, of people's favorite Star Wars films. So yeah. So, without further ado, this is my top 5 list of my all-time favorite Star Wars films. Episode 6, Return of the Jedi. Now, for a long time, Return of the Jedi was my all-time favorite Star Wars film. But as of now, things have changed for me on, which is my favorite Star Wars film. And yeah, but it still is one of my favorites, and that's why it makes the number 5 spot. Return of the Jedi. Everybody considers Return of the Jedi the true finale of the Skywalker saga. And, people say what they will about, the sequel trilogy, but still. This is what everybody had been waiting for after Empire, wanting to see the final confrontation between Luke and Vader, and, the fact that in Empire, it was revealed that Vader is Luke's father. So that meant that, well, since this was the finale of the original trilogy, Luke was going to, try and redeem his father, in which, yeah, he does. And we finally get to see the Emperor, Jabba the Hutt, and there's a second Death Star, and the Rebel Alliance trying to finally, take down the Empire and destroy the Death Star. So much that happens in this film, It has a lot of great action from, what happens on Tatooine, on the forest moon of Endor with the Ewoks, the space battle, the lightsaber duel, and the fact that Vader, goes from, being the Dark Lord of the Sith to being Anakin Skywalker and bringing balance to the Force, defeating and destroying the Emperor. And yeah, and of course, the Rebel Alliance finally defeats the Empire, the Death Star is destroyed, and all ends well. Return of the Jedi for sure did not disappoint for fans when it was released in theaters, and as I said, many people considering Return of the Jedi the true finale of the Skywalker saga. So, making the number 5 spot is Episode 6, Return of the Jedi. Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. Yes, of course. I mean, who does not love Revenge of the Sith? And I have a good feeling that a lot of people consider Revenge of the Sith the only good Star Wars film in the prequel trilogy. But come on, the first 2 were good, and there are plenty of people that, love and respect episodes 1 and 2, and not just episode 3. Everybody, there are those that love the entire prequel trilogy. So do I. So, Revenge of the Sith, being the 3rd and final chapter of the prequel trilogy, the one Star Wars movie that everybody had been waiting to see ever since George Lucas made the announcement that he was going to write and make the prequel trilogy, the story that everybody had been wanting to see, Anakin Skywalker becoming Darth Vader. And of course, other things that I have no doubt that everybody wanted to see as well, because what was mentioned, especially in Episode 4, the mentioning of the Clone Wars, the Old Republic with the Jedi, and seeing the Jedi Council, everything to it, and how, the Empire was born, and all of that happens, in this movie. With the fall of the Jedi Order, Anakin Skywalker turning to the dark side, he was blind by what he was doing. Palpatine succeeding in luring Anakin to the dark side and becoming his new apprentice. And Anakin and all of the clone troopers, attacking and killing the Jedi at the Jedi Temple. Order 66 happening. Everything to Revenge of the Sith is just so gut-wrenching, so much happening, and everything just coming downhill. And, Anakin, such a heartbreaking scene where, Obi-Wan tells Anakin that he was the chosen one to destroy the Sith and bring balance to the Force. And, the fact that, earlier in the film, he was soon to be a father because his secret wife, Padme, was pregnant with twins. And, for him turning to the dark side and never seeing his children and being a great father, it's just so sad. And the fact that Padme sadly dies, and especially because of Anakin turning to the dark side, he broke her heart. And Anakin never becoming an amazing father to his two kids, Luke and Leia. Yeah, Revenge of the Sith. What an amazing Star Wars film this is, for this being the third and final installment of the prequel trilogy. Everything to this, the action, adventure, the lightsaber duels, not to mention the Mustafar lightsaber duel. That was one of the true highlights of this film. A new bad guy stepping in, which was a bionic bad guy, General Grievous. He was an awesome Star Wars villain. And, for him debuting in the Micro Clone Wars series, and later on, we would get more of him in the Clone Wars series. Yeah, because he was an awesome bad guy, and we deserve to see more of him. And of course, seeing Darth Vader, appearing, and Anakin, in the suit, just amazing. Everything to this was amazing. And for this being my number 4 favorite Star Wars film. Episode 4, A New Hope. Of course, what started it all in 1977. And when George Lucas was writing this, and when it came to directing and making this film, a lot of people were doubting this film, and nobody could understand what this was. And yeah, when it came out in the month of May in 1977, it made history, changing the movie industry forever. How we look at films today. This is what changed the world of movies, literally. It's amazing because how this movie turned out. And for audiences in 1977, their first reaction to this, all the action, adventure, the visual effects, the storytelling, everything that was in this movie, nobody had seen before. A New Hope is where we first fell in love with these amazing characters. Luke Skywalker, Han Solo, Princess Leia, Chewbacca, R2-D2, C-3PO, Ben Kenobi, and the Dark Lord of the Sith himself, Darth Vader. And not to mention, this is the only Star Wars movie to be nominated for Best Picture. Yeah, That's definitely something, even for the Star Wars franchise. And there's one story I'd like to share that's about my dad. How he got introduced to Star Wars was he remembered on TV Harrison Ford, Carrie Fisher, and Mark Hamill were on a talk show, and they brought a clip of A New Hope to show to the audience, and it was the TIE Fighter battle, where Han and Luke are battling the TIE Fighters. That's what hooked my dad into just loving Star Wars instantly. And of course, my dad introducing me to everything Star Wars. Yeah. And also, a quick mention on the film's updates when the special edition happened. Yeah, because I think as of now, those updates and changes that were given to A New Hope made sense, and yeah, it rightfully so needed those changes and updates because, let's face it, back then, when Industrial Light and Magic had just started, Star Wars gave birth to ILM, basically. And, what George Lucas wanted to see for A New Hope, well, those things couldn't happen yet. But by the time the 90s rolled in and technology really got much better, that's when George realized that the time had come to go back to A New Hope, as well as Empire and Jedi, to give those movies the updates and changes they rightfully so needed. Episode 4, A New Hope, is what started it all, and for it being an important piece of film history, and for it being my number 3 favorite Star Wars film. Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back. Yes, of course. I love Empire. Who doesn't? Everybody considers this the best Star Wars movie of all time. And back then, when it was released in 1980, it was considered the best sequel of all time. Boy, George Lucas and those who worked on Empire took the risk. What was a sequel to one of the best movies that was ever made, Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope? Nobody could have imagined how a sequel to Star Wars would turn out, and not to mention, for it being helmed this time by Irvin Kershner. And boy, let me tell you, because I have no doubt that clearly, when this was released, it once again exploded, and it was a masterpiece right next to the first Star Wars film. It had a great story to it. The action and adventure, the Battle of Hoth, the lightsaber duel between Vader and Luke, the big reveal where Vader tells Luke that he is his father, and also new characters stepping in, Lando Calrissian, Jedi Master Yoda, and one of the most famous bounty hunters of Star Wars, Boba Fett, and Han Solo being frozen in carbonite. It also had some great character development, fantastic music, as it's always been in every Star Wars film by the one and only John Williams. So much to Empire is truly fantastic. They for sure took the risk, and boy, how this film turned out. Yeah. And, if I remember correctly, this is my dad's favorite Star Wars film. I think it's everybody's favorite Star Wars film. Well, maybe not everybody, but still, And yes, Empire Strikes Back does make my number 2 spot. Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. Okay, did anybody see this coming? I'm being serious, and I'm being completely honest. The Phantom Menace is my all-time favorite Star Wars film. It is, and I have no doubt that there are others that would consider The Phantom Menace their all-time favorite Star Wars film. I mean, come on, let's face it. This is where it all began, where the Skywalker saga really began, where Anakin was discovered on Tatooine, and as Qui-Gon Jinn said it best himself, our meeting was not a coincidence. Nothing happens by accident. And Qui-Gon Jinn, discovering that Anakin has high midichlorians, that he's very powerful with the Force. Everything to The Phantom Menace was fantastic. From the action, adventure, the infamous lightsaber duel between Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan, they're fighting against Darth Maul, who was another awesome Star Wars villain. The pod race sequence, all the new characters that were in this. We get a young Obi-Wan played by Ewan McGregor. Liam Neeson is Qui-Gon Jinn. And, say what you will about Jar Jar Binks, but, he never bothered me. And if I'm correct, George Lucas, he wanted to try out on creating a CG character, and I can understand that, and that's okay. Some of the other, CG creature characters, Watto, Sebulba, yeah, they were some pretty good characters too. Yoda's appearance in this, well, in the original release, he was a puppet, but people didn't like how he looked, because he didn't look real. And yeah, it was the right solution for a later release of The Phantom Menace. They replaced the Yoda puppet with the CG Yoda, and yeah, that made perfect sense. And the music, once again by John Williams, fantastic. The Duel of Fates, definitely one of his top best pieces of Star Wars music. I tell ya, The Phantom Menace, I think, is really amazing. And I love watching that documentary of, basically home video that was taken of them filming The Phantom Menace from beginning to end, when they first started it, on storyboards, to when it finally made its way to the big screen. And not to mention, where at the end of the documentary, George Lucas begins to write Episode 2. Yeah, that was a good documentary. But overall, I love The Phantom Menace. I don't think it's that bad. I know that it has its lovers and haters, but for me, I'm one of those who loves Phantom Menace. Phantom Menace being my #1 favorite Star Wars film. So in conclusion, this has been my top 5 favorite Star Wars films. But what about some of the other Star Wars films? Well, I'll quickly mention them. I do like Attack of the Clones. Definitely I can tell that a lot of people, really don't like Attack of the Clones, and I can understand and I respect their opinion. Rogue One, a Star Wars movie, that was another fantastic Star Wars film. Solo, a Star Wars story, and the Clone Wars movie, yeah, definitely those two movies, a lot of people consider not the best. But I enjoy them, and I do like them. And what about the sequel trilogy? Well, I don't hate them, but I do like them for what they are. Just saying, I don't think they're bad at all, but, they're not one of my favorites. Again, just honestly saying. And what about you guys? What did you think of my top 5 list of favorite Star Wars films? Which one's your favorite all-time favorite Star Wars film? Let me know in the comments section, and give this top 5 video a like, as always. So, with all that being said, thank you very much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed my top 5 list of some of my all-time favorite Star Wars films. More top 5/top 10 videos are on the way. They're gonna be awesome. Keep looking forward, and I'll see you guys in the next video /top 5/top 10. Take care, peace out, and may the Force be with you.